I'm in Pacific Northwest, the beautiful country of the Pacific Northwest, and I'm at the homestead of the Wranglerstars. Some of you may be familiar with their YouTube channel. They've been a huge inspiration for me just regarding a lot of stuff, you know, homesteading, parenting, homeschooling, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to sit down and talk with Mrs. W and Mr. Wranglerstar and talk about things like homesteading, living off the land, some of our values, and parenting, because I'm a new parent and I'm kind of curious on how they've raised such an awesome little boy who's very engaged, and so it's been a huge inspiration for me. So we're going to sit down and get into it. So I'm here at the Wranglerstar homestead, and I am super stoked to be here with you guys because you guys have been a huge inspiration for me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, inspiration on many fronts. First, it was just seeing people homestead and actually doing it, but also making a livelihood out of creating content, which has been a secondary inspiration for me.
Not doing well. Let's not confuse that. Attempting.
Well, that's it. That's all it was. Because, you know, when I got into what I'm doing, I wanted to do exactly what you guys are doing. I wanted to homestead, get a piece of land, live off the land, do all the stuff, you know, rainwater, solar, everything, you know, totally off grid.
The dream.
The dream, but the dream is incredibly hard to do. You know, what was it for you guys that, because you had previous careers, like you've only been at this house for what,
5.5 years.
So, like, what was it that made you go, this is what we want to do?
I think starting a family really opened up our eyes. That in combination with, you know, right when we were kind of starting to think about this, of course, the big housing bubble crash came
2008.
In 2008.
Yeah. That's what got me into it.
And it really, as Warren Buffett says, you know, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yep.
And, you know, we were very, very vulnerable, not only financially, but just independent. You know, we were relying upon our food and everything, utilities coming from someone else. I didn't like that aspect of it. You know, I'm not to say we're preppers or doomsday people, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And with a new family and a baby, you know, that sense of being able to protect and look after my family really kicked in. And fortunately, we were both on the same page. Yeah. We started moving that direction.
And I think, too, when we had a little small baby and we're in the middle of the city.
What city was that?
We were in Portland.
It was in Portland.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon. And we just felt like we wanted him to have more room to run and do everything. And so then, you know, we started with a little 1.5 acres, and then we got carried away. And so the properties kept getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, do you guys watch Portlandia?
It's hilarious.
Put
a bird on it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
How about the scene with the guy that builds the chair? You see that?
Oh, that's the best
No,
one.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, we'll have to show it to you because
yeah,
it's really funny.
Well, so, you know, for me, I'm a new parent.
Yes,
and
congratulations.
You know, thank you. And little Violet, and everything's changed now.
It does.
You know, and so how is it, because you guys, do you call it unschooling? Is it unschooling?
Well, I mean, we homeschool.
You homeschool,
but you know, he's got to learn. And part of it depends on what you define it as. But he's got to learn how to read, write, do math. Right. I mean, there's basics, so it's not completely unschooling, but we certainly lean that way.
And what got you into that? Like, were you into that before all this?
We've always homeschooled. So so that's
even
been
when
the
you were
whole
in
thing.
Portland, Jack was
the whole time.
was
And we ask him every year, like, do you want to continue? Because it's not just our decision if he really wanted to do that, but he has the best teachers in the world apparently because he wants to stay home.
Yeah.
And we're really pretty casual and loose with it. I mean, there's some hardcore things that need to be done. You need to have basic writing and math and spelling and those things everyone needs, but you know, the idea of sitting down and just grinding out schoolwork from section to section to section is not so much. We try to really take the big picture. You know, homeschooling for us, for the last week has been down there building the bridge. Yeah. You know, and I really involve Jack. He's got to measure. He's doing mathematics. He's doing geometry. He's doing physics, and all of those things, and everything going on around there is a great education. You learn by doing.
Absolutely.
More than memorizing. Yeah. So we try to incorporate everything that we're doing and make it fun to learn, and also really have an ear to what he's interested in and steer our tasks or what we're doing to guide his interests the most we can.
So here's the question that everybody asks, because we tell our family that we're going to unschool Violet.
Yes.
And they go, well, how is she going to integrate? How is she going to learn social skills? Because Jack's he's a well-adapted young man.
Yeah.
And I see him when we're doing Mother Earth News and you guys have Jack, he's chatting with people. He's hanging out. How do you do that when you're living a little ways out of the beaten path?
Well, I think part of it is like we're social.
Yeah.
So we, he has those traits as well. But then we belong to a homeschool co-op. He's got
Okay.
friends. We go to
Okay.
church. I mean, so there's these different avenues where he interacts with people. It's not like he doesn't have friends come over and hang out. So he certainly is around other people.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception too. Homesteading means moving out into the middle of nowhere and building a gate and hiding from the world. And that's not it at all.
Not at all, yeah.
We love the interaction. We like people. We like to go out and enjoy nice meals and things. And so where we chose to live was a compromise where we had a couple criteria. We wanted not to see anybody. Wanted to be in a place that inspired us, but also not so far away that we couldn't go in when we were just tired and have a nice meal.
Yeah.
And that she's more involved with social outreach in the community than I am. It's more important for her, so she has access to the library and to the book club and to meet her ladies weekly and those things. So that was important when we made the decision, because the guys will have a tendency to want to go remote. Like I had this dream, I wanted to be a pioneer in northern Montana,
right.
which may not be the best fit for the rest of the family.
No, the lone wolf thing can take you so far.
Right. If your wife is not happy, I guarantee you're not going to be happy.
Happy wife, happy
down
life.
the road. So.
Yeah.
So, looking at a big picture.
Can I respond one more thing?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So about the whole unschooling thing,
Yeah.
you also, like with Jack, we get a lot of books on hold from the library. So you can also determine kind of how that unschooling's going. And start audiobooks now, because as she's learning and playing, she'll hear different voices, different vocabulary than you use.
Yeah.
It'll enrich her entire language arts.
Yeah. Well, I heard, this whole unschooling thing is mind-blowing to me when I first heard about it. But, that the one thing I heard about that kind of, which is what you're talking about, is that children that hear more words earlier on perform way better in the long run.
They do.
So that's one thing Katie and I have been making a concerted effort to do with Violet is talk to her,
Yes.
even though she's 3 months old,
Yeah.
but talk to her like an adult. And so she hears language, she hears us having conversation, she's engaged. And that's one thing we've already found with her at this early stage, is that she just likes being in the action.
Oh yeah.
I've got her with me, I'm watering the garden, like I'm talking business on the phone, she finds comfort in that.
Yeah. Well, it's your voice.
Yeah, that's part of it too. So, I mean, what's your guys' vision for where you want this place to be in the next, 10 years? Because you started with, okay, we want a homestead, we want to grow some of our own food, we want to build some things, an infrastructure. What do you guys envision happening on this place? Have you gone down that far?
Yeah, the thing, and I don't know, I haven't really fleshed it out yet, but what I really enjoy is, the dogs are going to run for life here, is the education aspect of it.
Yeah.
I just am so grateful to have access to like YouTube and to different people that have come into my life that have helped me to learn these things. To be able to share that as well. I would really like to, I like being involved with like-minded people, to have them come out, and I don't know if that's workshops or what it is, but just kind of sharing that knowledge and passing it on. I like to see people coming out of the city and getting their own place started, even if it's just a quarter acre, and starting to grow their own food. That to me is really exciting, and that's a good work. It's worth doing. You can look back on it when you're in your 90s.
It is.
I left it a little bit better than I found it.
That's amazing too, because it's really all about people, isn't it? In the sense that what is a legacy with just a piece of land only lasts as long as the infrastructure on that land.
Right.
You can go and terrace your landscape, put in all these gardens and fruit trees and make this like, this Garden of Eden, if you will.
Right.
But if it's not maintained and it disappears, what happens? Whereas the legacy of the education, and this is I'm at this exact same place with you guys, is, that can live on forever in the hearts and minds of people that have been touched by that information.
Yeah.
Pass it down.
Yeah, it's not about the tractors and the stuff, and it's easy to get caught up in that and think, well, if I just had all these things, if I just had that mower, I just had this fence, or if I just had this going, I'd have it set. But the thing is I guess the biggest lesson for me is I receive a lot of heritage and family tools that have been passed down from family members. Subscribers will send them to me. This is Granddad's, or this was my dad's. Maybe there's someone in the family who didn't have an interest in that, and having my hands on something that belonged to someone that was really important to them, it was really special. But what is it now after you're gone?
Yeah.
So if your whole life is built around, I want that perfect set, or I want that perfect car, that perfect house. What is that? What legacy is that when it falls into another man's hands? It's just a strange thing for me to think that this was something that was so special to someone. Maybe they even sacrificed the well-being of their family to possess it. what good did it do? Where's the memory, and what was the point of it? So
yeah, that's a big one. But I mean, going back to your place, if you were to say, what are some things that you wanted to do on this right away? I mean, we talked about the garden today,
I want to finish remodeling the house.
Yeah.
Because we've been married for 13 years and we've lived in remodels the entire time. So that would be nice to unpack all the boxes and just kind of have a place for everything.
Yeah.
The garden needs some work. We bought a place that was very dilapidated, and so we just have a lot to finish.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of what I gathered from your visit today was is building a infrastructure, whether it be a garden or houses or outbuildings that don't require a minimum amount of input. Using technology, that's one thing is modern homesteading is what referred to the channel, and that to me means using whatever's at our disposal.
Absolutely.
Not to turning our back on the old ways, and that's why I spend so much time with trying to maintain the traditional tools and the crosscut saws, but I don't want to cut firewood with crosscut saw.
No.
When I have
a little
access
bit for fun, but not all
to a
the to the
chainsaw,
house. Yeah.
I don't want to be ignorant of it. And if times got tough, whether it be a financial collapse or a natural disaster or even a personal financial issue where we couldn't afford to buy things that we needed, that at least we could heat the home and provide some food and have some security.
Absolutely.
That way. So I guess to answer your question is to get things a little bit more automated,
Yeah.
a little less input, a little less work,
Yeah.
more of things that take care of themselves.
Yeah, I find it's this, there's a bit of a dichotomy where it's between like the high tech or the Luddite. The in-between is like the appropriate technology. That's what we refer to this in farming as, is appropriate technology. A lot of people obsess about high tech, but they also obsess about old school things too. And it's what's appropriate for your situation, what's appropriate for the context. And that's where something like an irrigation timer in your garden, that's simple stuff.
Yeah.
The world could go to hell tomorrow. That's something that's really simple. That can work.
My experience with those things is, let's say you have a big infrastructure issue that you need to deal with. You build it up in your mind, and you build up your mind, it becomes this huge thing that is going to be impossible to tackle. But if you just jump in and do it, oftentimes my experience is like, why did I do this 10 years ago?
I know.
Why did I do this 3 years ago?
That's the whole thing.
So here, it's a good example that you have pointed out to me is that Mrs. W is out doing a lot of hand watering, and the irrigation system is not great. If we were to take a half a day, go into town, buy the things, maybe one day, let's say it took 2 days.
Yeah.
What is that over the next course of 3 or 4 years when
That's
she
it.
doesn't have to come out every evening and water the garden?
For me, it's all about quality of life. And now that I have a kid, it's even more so. It's
Changes
compounded.
things.
It's just like, what can I do to create more time for me to spend with my family? And if that means streamlining things and simplifying things and then putting some appropriate technology into that mix, that means I can save this many hours, compound it over this many days throughout the year. Hey, that might buy me another 2 weeks of hanging out with my family. And I think a lot of homesteaders miss that because they just go, I want to do everything hardcore, like it's like live and die by the sword attitude.
Yeah.
And then they burn out and they get jaded and then they quit. And nobody wins if you quit.
Well, and it's more work than people anticipate.
Oh, that's
We always
for sure.
say it takes 3 times as long and it costs 3 times as much. So you might as well just enjoy it when you're doing
Absolutely.
it.
And it's long term. It's hard for us, I think, not only just Americans, we're like, there's a task, it needs to be done. It needs to be done now. That's really the mentality that I grew up, especially in the construction trades.
Yeah.
So here we have this enormous property for us, so just the 3 of us. And when we started, it was overwhelming. I would just used to walk around in just despair. Thinking, there's just no use. And what it was, I was paralyzed. I couldn't even get started because it was so pointless. It was so overwhelming. And then we finally decided, let's clear a 10 by 10 area of the forest. And that's where we started down there. And a lot of our work that we've done here, you haven't seen, it's been in the forest and all of that sort of work. But once we got that foothold, we got that beachhead established, then we started nibbling on the edges, and then we got momentum, and it was amazing what we got done just by that one start. But it could have been easy for me to have never started there.
Yeah.
And here, 5 years later, I could still be here wringing my hands thinking there's just no use. It's hopeless.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the cool thing, because that kind of correlates back to our conversation in your video about the garden, is just pick one thing, do it well, get it done, then move on to the next thing. And so we can really take that attitude and put it in anything that we do, in our lives even, right? Because if the multitasking thing, I mean, men do not multitask well. I am horrible at multitasking. My wife can do it quite well. And I think maybe there's some genetics there, holding the baby, doing all this stuff. She's amazing at it. I can't. It's like, I need one thing, get that done, and then move on to the next thing. And homesteaders and farmers are notorious for doing that. And it's really inspiring to see what you guys have done and built with this. And thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time for me and having me here. And
well, we're so appreciative for your help.
yeah, we'll do it again sometime.
Thanks for making the long drive.
Absolutely.
And through Americans Customs, that's not a small
I
thing.
know.
I know.
So if you guys don't know who the Wranglerstars are already, please go and check out their content. They've been producing amazing homesteading content for many years. They've been a huge inspiration for me, and I think they offer a ton of value for people who want to do homesteading themselves. So subscribe to their channel, check out their videos. Thanks for watching, guys.